I don't really believe in inspiration. I'll put it this way. I don't believe that you cannot have inspiration, but I don't think me or most of the people I know can rely on inspiration to. One of the things that I care about a lot is getting better with music. Somehow I was always into guitar and I always wanted to play guitar, and I kind of bugged my parents to let me take some lessons, and they were like, "Ah, you're too young." Yeah, I heard that that was a big no-no in the jazz scene.
Do you have any hobbies outside of music that most people don't know about or maybe would be surprised about?
Yeah, actually I do.
This video is made possible through the support of my patrons on Patreon. Thanks, insiders. I have the great pleasure of interviewing a friend of mine who also lives here in New York. He's a guitarist, a prolific composer, and to date, as of this interview, has put out 7 albums. Do I have that correct?
Potentially, yeah, I do. Yeah.
Somewhere in there, 6 or 7 anyway.
Totally.
He tours fairly extensively around the globe, including, but not limited to, the US, South America, and Europe. He has a large following on social media and has amassed a huge subscriber base, soon approaching 140,000 subscribers on YouTube, on his YouTube channel. I don't know how he has the time to do it all. Rotem Sivan, welcome, and thanks for doing this interview.
Thank you, man. Pleasure to be here. Good to see you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's true, yeah.
Most people don't know we actually lived together for about 2 weeks.
That we live together?
Yeah, yeah.
It's true.
At Gracie's old
Yeah.
apartment. You were there for about 2 weeks. I think that's when you went to India, maybe, or something.
Yeah. Well, I guess I was already like kind of like moved to like this spot in I guess around, not Flatbush, was it? Yeah, but yeah, I totally remember that period.
Yeah, because I went through divorce, and then I had to find someplace temporary to live, and she was able to rent me a room for a couple of months.
Nice. Yeah. I remember. It's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. That was it was short but fun.
Yeah. It's a cool spot. It was on like Linden, right? At
I
like
think so. Yeah, I think it
yeah,
was Linden. Yeah, right near
yeah,
the church subway stop.
yeah. Cool. Nice.
Where did you grow up, and how did you get started playing guitar?
I grew up in Israel, and somehow I was always into guitar, and I always wanted to play guitar, and I kind of bugged my parents to let me take some lessons, and they were like, "Ah, you're too young," and eventually they said, "Okay, you can do it." And then I started, but I wasn't that serious about it, and then I started getting more and more into it as I kept playing, and yeah.
Well, what made you get more serious about it?
Um, I guess just in a way, music felt like this like magical place that I don't understand, and I want to figure it out. And it just felt like this door to this universe that is full of color and amazing, and I don't know anything about it. So that was kind of like, I was like, wow, I want to know what's happening there.
Sort of like the mysticism of it all, like what's going on there? I have to figure it out, kind of thing.
Yeah, it just felt like this like secret world that I don't know what's happening there, and I really want to be a part of it. And that kind of, like, I don't know. I remember listening to like Bach and understanding. I had a friend that was like super talented. Or I had two super talented friends when I was in high school, and one was like just like the most crazy ears you can imagine. Just you fall on the piano, it tells you all the notes. We used to listen to this like Bill Evans record, just hanging out and listening to a lot of Bill Evans. And one day at school, like, like, I don't know, 10th, 11th grade or something, he goes to the piano and just plays the whole thing. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Why did you contrive it? And it's like talking about like some hard Bill Evans stuff, right? Like the
Right.
whole,
Yeah.
like Us for Debbie and the whole, so like, and he was like, oh man, we listened to it together. Don't you remember? And I was like, wow. just like like, so I had a chance to like hang out with these guys that were like, they could process music and a lot of information really, really fast, and I was like, wow, this is insane. I want to be able to do that and to process this thing. Yeah.
Right. Cool. Who would you say is your top 3 or 4 influences?
I would say,
Because for me, I could probably say there's way more than that. That accumulates and sort of that influences how what your own sound. But we're short on time, so I figured 3 or 4 maybe list it your top 3 or 4.
yeah. So I would say Brad Meldau, um, Pat
Okay.
Metheny, and Chet Baker, if we're saying three. Again, of course, there are many more. I
Yeah.
love Hank Mobley and Win Kelly and Coltrane. I mean, there's all
Yeah.
the masters, Bill Evans, and but I feel like these are just like heroes of mine. I don't necessarily want to sound exactly like them. I mean, although that sounds amazing as well, but just like the relationship, or the way I see the relationship with music and art, is something that I aspire for. I think like they strive and also succeed to be very truthful with their intentions and their craft, and they have a lot of sort of ways to express what they want, and music is a very kind of fluid medium that they can create with, whether again
Right.
Chet Baker's singing or playing these simple lines or very intricate lines, and all these guys just pure music, and also good intention, if you will.
Right.
So
Well, I just saw footage. I think it was a couple of days ago of Tony Williams talking. Like I think he might have been giving like a clinic or something, right?
yeah.
And he said that he thought learning everything note by note from his favorite musicians was how he figured out not only what to play, but what not to play to make
Mm,
it his own sound. I thought
yeah,
that was kind of cool.
totally, that makes
Yeah.
a lot of sense, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't necessarily. One of my heroes was Eddie Van Halen because I grew up, in the '80s as a guitar player. In the '80s, you almost can't be influenced by Eddie Van Halen in some way, right? And and he even always sort of preached like, don't try to sound like me or anybody, just do your own thing, right? So that I probably internalized that or took it to heart. So I even though I played a bunch of Eddie Van Halen stuff and a whole bunch of other different things, I knew that I wanted to not sound like a copy of somebody.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard that it was a lot of that was a big no-no in the jazz scene as well, at least back in the day. I mean, that was like a part of the conversation, even more so than today. I don't know, that's what I heard, but just that there was like, yeah, this idea of really finding your voice. I mean, it's always
Right.
important, but it sounded from stories I heard there was this like really strong kind of like intention behind that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think well, and plus just the way people learned back then. I think it it just organically became about that way. Because nowadays most people learn jazz in school and they tend to be taught the same things and people are starting to
Uh,
sound very similar, I would think.
Interesting. Yeah, I see. Yeah, I guess the access to information really changed quite a bit. So you have the option to really look into something very specific. I mean, I
Yeah.
guess you could do it, but it was maybe a little harder. And there's so much information that you can get from people to process that even faster. So it's like maybe in a way easier to do that. But yeah,
Yeah. It's
always
it's
an
it's just a theory. I have no proof.
yeah. That's cool.
uh,
That's cool.
would you say that you are an avid practicer? Like, do you practice a lot,
Yeah, I would
or
say so.
or are
Yeah.
you sort of like a binger?
No,
Like,
no, I would say I practice. Yeah, I care
okay,
about one of the things that I care about a lot is getting better with music. So I would practice some hours every day for sure.
right. And yeah, I know what you mean, especially when you have gigs, you want to sound as good as possible.
For sure.
There's always
Yeah.
this nagging thing like, well, I don't want to suck in the back of my mind. Um, do you compose music only when inspiration strikes, or do you compose on a regular basis? Like, do you force yourself to write?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I have periods, and yeah, for me, it helps like making a decision. Like for example, I want to do this project, so I'll be like, okay, I'm just writing something, and then naturally, not everything you write you like, and some stuff you throw, and some things you keep. But like it always is really helpful for me. Like sometimes I'll be like, oh, I have an idea, and then I do that. But I feel like most or a lot of times it's like I'm making a decision. I'm like, kind of want to like mess with this idea, and I spend conscious time on creating. I
Right.
think at the end of the day, it's like I don't really believe in inspiration. I'll put it this way. I don't believe that you cannot have inspiration, but I don't think me or most of the people I know can rely on inspiration to like write or do anything almost. You
Yeah.
know, because it's a lot of there's a lot of craft and there's a lot of intention. Like it's like you go to work. I mean, you're like, okay, yes, some days it's easier to practice and some days are harder, and sometimes I'm more motivated or less motivated, but I need to do it because I have this vision of how I want to, you know, run my life and what I want to be able to do. So it's like these decisions, the same thing with writing. um yeah, so I think it's cool to like actually dedicate, you know, allocate time for writing. Or you know, you write it, decide you want to put an album and you want a new song, okay, yeah, do it, you know,
Yeah.
half an hour a day, an hour a day, whatever you want to do. And of course everybody's different, but that's something I do sometimes.
Well, the reason why I asked is I wanted to kind of dispel the myth of waiting for inspiration. So there was a
Totally.
reason why I asked it that way.
Yeah.
Because I'm like you. One of my teachers from years ago like asked me why I was so prolific, and I'm like, I'm prolific, really? You think so? And especially maybe like 20, 25 years ago, every time I would sit down to practice, I would come across an idea. Next thing you know, I'm writing a song.
Nice. That's really
so
cool.
so I think just getting your hands on an instrument sometimes is inspiration enough, if you want to call it inspiration, right?
Totally,
Yeah.
100%. And it's interesting. I kind of made a decision recently that this year I kind of want to learn a lot of songs. So I'm kind of spending most days like time learning songs that I always wanted to learn, like standards and different things. So I learned a lot of songs. And I also was debating if I should like learn a song every day. That's kind of like, you know, or every, yeah, kind of every day or something. Or I should write a song every day. And so I decided to do this year sort of like more learning songs most days. And then next year I'll do writing songs.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, which I think would be
Because
also interesting, because like a lot of times I actually use a pencil and a like piece of paper, but I feel like if I'm going to actually write, you know, whatever, 300 songs, 200 songs or whatever, around these numbers, like short ideas, I will have to actually get good with the software because I'm so not fat. I can do it, but I'm not, just not quick. So it would be cool to actually nail.
I'm like you. I would rather use a pencil and paper.
Yeah, and I also a lot of times write on the piano. So like I don't know, I like to write sometimes like away from the instrument,
Uh-huh.
or like my instrument, if you say, you know, you will.
Yeah.
So like kind of like figure it, and they're like, oh, okay, because sometimes like simple thing that I'll play on piano, I'll be like, I like it, and with guitar, I'm like, it kind of like sucks. But then when I believe in the song, I'll be like, no, this is totally fine. This is, you know, C minor. Let's hit it. So.
Well, it's funny that you brought that up, that write a song every day or learn a new song every day, because I think that's what Julian Lage was talking about.
Oh, really? That's
He
amazing.
that last album that he did, and I don't know if it was like a pandemic thing that spurred it
Yeah.
on, but because you know you tend to find inspiration when you're got nothing to do. But he said made out a certain point to write a song every day.
Amazing. Yeah, I
Yeah.
actually didn't know that. That's really cool. It makes sense because I was exactly debating because I was like, I kind of want to write more songs, but I also like, so that was my decision to do like learn studying and then
Right.
yeah.
Um, Off the topic of that, do you can well maybe it's kind of on topic. Could you talk or maybe even demonstrate, if you have a guitar handy, what makes up your sound? The
Wow.
Rotem Sivan sound. I know that's like really broad and probably really hard, but if you can sort of narrow it down.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I don't think I can. I mean,
Uh-huh.
I don't think I'm capable of doing that. I also
You
Yeah.
almost need somebody else to analyze what you're doing and have them explain it, right?
I think so. I mean, I just really don't know what to say. It's like so like I don't I mean, I think I'm striving to get something that I believe in, but I don't know if there's a clear consistency to that sound. Definitely not in a way that I can articulate
Mhm.
in a clear way.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
I
So
just that kind of just popped into my head, and I
yeah,
thought maybe.
it's a good question. Maybe some people can like be like, "Hey, this is exactly that," but I really don't have that
Yeah,
idea.
especially if you're the type of person I think that designed your sound from step one and then builds it up, and that's your modus operandi or whatever, I guess. But I
Mm.
don't think I'm necessarily like that either. Um,
Yeah, how
what
would you describe it? I'm curious. Yeah.
like my sound? Yeah,
Yeah.
if someone asked me, I probably would have a hard time too. But
Yeah.
um, I guess I would start with saying that I focus on the harmony first, like the chords.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really a chord tone based player,
Yeah.
mostly.
Your core melody has always been wild. Yeah.
Well, like even when I'm soloing, I try to like really nail chord tones, in
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
certain spots to like really outline the harmony and everything.
Yeah.
Uh,
And I wanted to ask you
yeah.
actually. Um, I remember like your legato was always killing. I mean, I'm just curious. Like, I got into this like just like I'm curious how you think about it. What like were some exercises specifically talking about like legato and kind of like dexterity that you did that really helped you get to to your thing.
Oh man, I wish I could. Oh, geez, I don't know. I think I just could always do it.
Putting you on the spot, really?
I
Okay,
think I could
that's
just,
yeah, that's like
and then maybe that's like an influence of Eddie Van Halen too.
probably. But were there any like technical things that you used to practice, or it's like it just like was always kind of easy for you?
No, well, probably just started with scales.
Yeah, 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 but not nothing clear. Be like, ah, this was because some
No.
people can like articulate and be like, oh yeah, man, I practiced this and this was. But yeah, I'm just curious. Like, I was asking this. I was doing. We do like these sometimes guitar hang with some of my buddies, and we bring like sometimes we bring like exercise that we share and practice, and somehow we got to talk about legato, and everybody practices it and practices it, but it was interesting to see like what people said that was like helpful and what how do they see it, and everybody had like quite different exercises
Right.
that they checked out. So I was just curious about, but for you, yeah, it's
Well,
cool.
probably because of Eddie Van Halen, I
Like
also
transcribing the
checked.
solos and yeah,
Well, I also checked out Alan Holdsworth because Eddie Van Halen would talk about Alan Holdsworth.
yeah, he's insane. Yeah,
So it's just from listening, probably. So it's like you hear the sound and then you just try to emulate it.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I don't think I really sat down and did any exercises, but I think I was maybe just had a really good left hand, and I'm right-handed, but I do a lot of things with my left hand. I wouldn't say I'm ambidextrous, but
yeah,
some people have just certain strength in certain areas, I guess, and I don't know.
yeah, yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, that's great. Naturally.
Do you have any hobbies outside of music that most people don't know about or maybe would be surprised about?
Yeah, actually I do. I'm really into Muay Thai. It's
Oh, okay.
it's
Yeah.
sort of a new-ish hobby, and I'm really into it. Yeah, it's really fun. It's
And it
like
helps
just
keep you in shape too, right?
yeah. I mean, it's like really intense. You go and get punch and punch people, and it's great. It's like such a contradiction to everything we do with music and
Right.
guitar, all this stuff, and it's like okay, let's it's
Well,
great.
especially us guitar players, we're kind of very stationary, right? We're
And
always
it's very
like,
small movement. It's like, you're like,
yeah,
okay, like, I'll wake up early, I'll practice some hours, and I'll be like, and it's just such a different thing, like, and it involves your whole body and moving in space
yeah,
and of course, sweating like a river, just
right.
like it's crazy. So I really, that's something. And then I'm into cooking as well. So my family is all like, food is a big part, and it was always actually a big part of my family's kind of like language. So my dad really is very serious about it. My brother had a restaurant and he was a chef in some very fancy restaurants before. He's also an artist. So he always did both. He's like, had a lot of exhibitions and galleries and all this stuff, paintings and also sculptures. So it's like he's doing that full time. So, but food was always a part of the conversation. So I guess I'm into it. And there's,
That's like one of the top answers that musicians give is like their kind of
yeah,
hobby is like food, cooking food.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's kind of cool. Again, I'm more functional most of the time, but I do enjoy it. Like
Right.
it's like I can make some stuff really kind of quickly and hopefully it tastes decently.
Yeah,
But yeah, there's
I always say if you got good ingredients, how can you go wrong? Like unless you burn it or something, but
I mean it's true. I mean I had some food that people had good ingredients with disaster, but yeah, most of the time it's really good. I agree. I mean, I think the cool thing about food is like I can really hear it. Like I can imagine, like I can really taste it. And if I eat something, I can kind of like hear it pretty clearly. Like if I eat a specific whatever, I can be like, oh, okay, yeah, now I know how to make it.
oh, cool. Yeah, yeah.
Like I can most of the
Well,
time, like again, of course, there's complex food that takes a lot of patience, and I'm not that patient with food. But
right.
but the basic stuff, like I'll be like, okay, cool, I get it.
Well, since we're on the topic of food, I was going to ask you two food questions.
Yeah,
Coming from Israel, what is the food that you miss the most now that you live in the US?
yeah. I would say the hummus. I mean, it's like you have some stuff here, but it's not on the same level. It's
Yeah.
just a different league. So like, yeah, these kind of like hummus and falafel are like you have certain things here, but it's really far off. It's
Well, you took me to a place that you said, well, this is about as close as that you're going to get, like where you used to live in Williamsburg. One time you took me to a place.
was it 12 chairs maybe?
I can't remember because that
Yeah,
was like
maybe.
maybe 6, 7 years ago or something now. But
Yeah. I don't remember which one. Yeah, so there are some places that are decent, but then you go back and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, totally off. And of course, and sometimes like there are still like new places that are like really good, but it's like you need to like spend time and go there. It's not like
right.
every corner and like, in Israel, it's sort of like, yeah, you want to grab a bite, you like go downstairs and you have like this insane, like, kind of like Mediterranean hummus, and it's also very inexpensive. It's really healthy. It's very
Yep.
kind of like, vegetarian-y, whatever, and
Yep.
it's like good protein. It's good source of kind of like essentials, and it's yeah inexpensive, etc. And here I feel like everything is crazy expensive and oftentimes not as good. But it's okay. We have art and we have other things in
Well,
New York, so.
what's your favorite food in the US if you have any?
Um,
Like
uh,
US based North American food.
yeah. Well, I really like the diner experience. Now, I don't always like the food per se, but I like the concept a lot.
Uh-huh.
Like I'm kind of like very into diners.
Like the mom and pop kind of place, you mean?
Yeah, and to
Okay.
see like the variations and to see because it's really fascinating how it varies and there's like these kind of like basic rules that are the same, but then the shape of the potatoes varies and you can see like I think like with music and cooking and actually everything, it's all about intention. And if you
Right.
sub like the word intention or attention with the word love, so it's all about love. Like if you go to a shitty diner, it's only shitty because the person doesn't care about the egg, so he doesn't put any intention or attention in making these whatever scrambled eggs. Then again, if you would care just a little more, or if you would care a lot, you put some salt and make sure it's the right, and then he just gives intention, attention slash love to that action, and then you have something amazing. Same thing with music or
Yeah.
anything. Like,
Yeah. I was just gonna say you can say that about anything. Yeah.
but it's true. Like that's why when you go to a coffee shop and it's killing, you're like, wow, there's a lot of love here. When you
Right.
listen to somebody create, a painting, a piece of art, music, they mean it. They try to create something. There is attention and intention behind it, and then it can be really, really good. And yeah,
Well, I know we've got some time constraints here. But
Yeah, unfortunately, I have to run. I mean, this is awesome, and
okay.
we should definitely hang very soon. I'll text you and
Because
we'll
I was
set
going
it
to
up.
say I've got some rapid fire questions if you can stick around
Yeah,
just
do it.
for
Yeah.
that. What's a typical day in the life of Rotem?
Wow. I usually try to wake up pretty early. I do like morning pages, so I write some pages.
Hmm.
And I used to do like exercise first thing in the morning, but now because I'm doing the Muay Thai the last recent time, so it's later in the day, so I'll wait with that. And I usually like basically will practice a few hours, go to Muay Thai, and then do a rehearsal or play with people, and then a gig or something of that nature.
Well, there's only so many hours in a day, right?
It's true. Yeah.
um, what's your non-musical superpower?
Um, I remember locations of every object I see.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
so I
almost
remember.
like a photographic memory for where things
Yeah,
were.
so like my wife always asks me where things are. She can be like, "Hey, where is this pencil?" And I'll be like, "Oh, it's under this and this and this." But I remember like exactly, like I don't know why, but she can ask me any of these stupid like things, but I always know where things are. It's kind of random, but it's very useful at times. She'll be like, "Where is my password?" I'll be like, "Oh, you left it under the table a few months ago, and it should be. This is the last like registered place." And oftentimes I'm right unless she moved it. But
Right, right,
so
right.
yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna. This is basically kind of the last question. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, it's an I would question. So I'm gonna say an I would statement, and I want you to repeat the statement and then finish it. Cool.
Okay. I'll try.
Okay. Don't worry, it's not gonna be anything weird. Okay. If I were to give advice to anyone wanting to learn jazz or guitar or music in general, I would tell them to.
I would tell them that they need to listen.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough.
I think
Fair enough.
that's the
Listening
most
is very
important.
important. Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe
So
last, is there anything else that you want to announce or plug or anything while we
well,
have
I
you
guess I
here?
just released an album. It's called Dream Louder. So if you want to check it out, it's in the world. And if you are in Mexico or in Europe, we're playing a tour in Mexico in April and then a tour in Europe also in April. So basically, kind of like the first couple of weeks of April, it will be in Mexico for a week and then Europe for about 10 days or so.
Cool. I'll leave some links below.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Man, good to see you. Thank you so much.
You should check out this interview that I did with Adam Levy. If you don't know, Adam is a jazz guitarist who played with Nora Jones when she first busted out on the scene. We have a great conversation about music and what it takes to be able to keep a high profile gig. Click on the link and you'll get to hear our most excellent conversation.